The slap echoes through first class like a gunshot. Blood drips from the black mother's lip onto her baby's onesie. The 6-month-old screams, not the ordinary cry of discomfort, but the primal wail of an infant sensing violence. Around them, passengers freeze with phones half raised, witnesses to something they don't yet understand. "Get your hands off me!" The flight attendant's voice cracks with rage. The mother doesn't move, doesn't speak, just holds her crying daughter and smiles that particular smile of someone who knows exactly what comes next. In 27 minutes, everyone on Flight 847 will understand why. 15 minutes earlier, the morning light streaming through Gate B7's windows catches the elegant curve of Amara Johnson's profile as she adjusts her daughter against her shoulder. The baby, Zara, sleeps with that profound trust only infants possess, tiny fingers curled around her mother's thumb. Amara wears simplicity like armor, a charcoal hoodie, well-worn jeans, pristine white sneakers. Nothing about her appearance suggests the power that flows through her veins like electricity waiting for its moment to strike. The boarding announcement for Skylink Airways Flight 847 crackles through the terminal. "We now invite our first-class passengers to board." The words hang in the air like an invitation to a performance no one yet knows they're attending. Amara moves with deliberate calm through the jet bridge, each step measured, purposeful. The shift in atmosphere as she crosses the threshold into first class is immediate. Leather and privilege, champagne and judgment. The cabin smells of expensive cologne and unexamined assumptions. Kesha Miller stands at the entrance like a guardian of social order, her practiced smile freezing the moment her eyes catalog Amara's appearance. The smile doesn't just fade, it transforms into something harder, more calculating. 15 years of gatekeeping crystallizes in that single expression. Her gaze travels from the hoodie to the baby, from the sneakers to the brown skin, computing, categorizing, dismissing. "Excuse me, ma'am." The words emerge wrapped in false courtesy, sharp edges hidden beneath professional veneer. "Economy class boards from the rear door. This is first class." She gestures toward the back of the plane with the kind of motion reserved for directing servants. Amara's hand moves to her pocket with underwater grace, producing 2 items that will soon rewrite the next hour of everyone's life aboard this aircraft. The boarding pass bears the unmistakable gold trim of first class. But it's the second item that makes Keisha's breath catch. A card so black it seems to absorb light. The Skylink First Family Platinum insignia barely visible against its obsidian surface. This must be fake. The words escape before Keisha can stop them, her fingers turning the card over as if repetition might transform it into something more acceptable. "I've never seen this card before." Truth and accusation blend in her voice. She hasn't seen it because only 12 exist in the entire world, a fact her training never covered because people who carry such cards don't typically dress like they shop at Target. Brad Williams, working the galley, glances over with concern etched across his features. He's seen Keisha's routine before, watched her find reasons to challenge certain passengers. Always the same type, always with the same outcome. "Keisha, that looks like the new executive tier card." "Don't be stupid." She cuts him off with practiced dismissal. "They only issued 12 of those. To board members and—" The sentence hangs unfinished as her certainty wars with possibility. Amara's voice, when it comes, carries the weight of mountains. "I'll take my seat now." She moves past Keisha without waiting for permission, settling into 1A, the seat reserved for Skylink's most valued passengers. Every motion speaks of someone accustomed to navigating spaces that don't want her, of dignity maintained in the face of constant small erosions. "Ma'am, you need to move until we verify." Keisha's voice rises, drawing attention from other boarding passengers who crane their necks with the peculiar hunger of those sensing drama. "I'm not moving anywhere." Amara's fingers move across her phone screen with surgical precision, sending a single message that will soon detonate through the entire Skylink corporate structure. "Check your system." The calm in her voice is not peace. It's the eye of a hurricane, gathering strength for landfall. The ground crew's response crackles through Keisha's earpiece like static from another dimension. "Ma'am, the first family cards aren't in our standard system. You need executive clearance to verify." But Keisha has already stopped listening. 15 years of muscle memory overrides protocol, her certainty hardening like concrete in the morning sun. "I don't have time for this." The words slice through the cabin air as she disconnects the call. Her eyes, when they find Amara again, carry the weight of every assumption she's ever made and been rewarded for. "You people always try these tricks." The phrase hangs between them like a lit fuse. You people. Two words that contain centuries of dismissal, decades of denied humanity, years of battles Amara has fought in boardrooms and courtrooms. The baby stirs against her chest, perhaps sensing the seismic shift in atmospheric pressure that has nothing to do with altitude. Amara's phone screen illuminates her face as she types with one hand, the other securing Zara against her heart. The message she sends travels through digital space faster than Prejudice, reaching its destination in the executive offices of Skylink Airways, where it will soon detonate with the force of accountability delayed too long. Behind them, the boarding process continues its choreographed dance. Business travelers file past, their eyes doing that particular mathematics of public drama, calculating whether to involve themselves or maintain the comfortable distance of plausible deniability. Most choose distance. Most always do. But in seat 3B, Madison Taylor has already made a different calculation. The 22-year-old Columbia journalism student recognizes the electricity in the air, that particular charge that precedes moments that matter. Her phone rises almost unconsciously, the TikTok app opening with practiced ease. "Okay, guys, I'm literally about to board, and there's already drama. This flight attendant is giving serious Karen vibes to this mom with a baby." 500 viewers become 800 in the space between heartbeats. The comments begin their rapid-fire assault on the bottom of her screen. "Film everything." "What airline? Of course it's a black woman SMH." Kesha's voice escalates, drawing more eyes, more phones, more witnesses to what she doesn't yet understand is her final performance. "Security to gate B7. We have a situation with a non-compliant passenger." The words are routine, practiced, delivered with the confidence of someone who has never faced consequences. Brad Williams shifts uncomfortably in the galley, his hands gripping the service cart with white knuckles. He's watched this scene play out before. Different actors, same script, identical ending. The words form in his throat. "Keisha, maybe we should just..." But they die there, strangled by the same cowardice that has let him witness 17 complaints over 5 years and say nothing louder than whispers. "Ma'am, you need to stop recording." Keisha's attention splits between Amara and Madison now, her control fracturing. "This is a private matter." Madison's laugh carries the fearlessness of her generation. "Private? You're literally doing this in front of everyone. And newsflash, when you work for the public, nothing's private. That's literally the whole point." Her viewer count climbs past 2,000. The comments become a torrent. Captain Richard Hayes emerges from the cockpit with the measured stride of a man accustomed to his word being law at 30,000 feet. His presence fills the cabin door, 4 stripes on his shoulders catching the light like badges of authority. "What seems to be the issue, Keisha?" Relief floods the flight attendant's face like water breaking through a dam. "Captain, this woman is refusing to comply with verification procedures. She's presented what appears to be a fraudulent executive card and won't move from 1A. Amara watches the captain's approach with the stillness of deep water. She's seen this choreography before. The way authority multiplies itself. The way those with power instinctively align against those presumed powerless. Her fingers trace small circles on Zara's back, a gesture of comfort that somehow manages to convey infinite patience and imminent reckoning. The captain's eyes perform their own assessment, taking in Amara's appearance, the baby, the phone still glowing in her hand. His conclusion forms before he speaks, visible in the set of his shoulders, the slight downturn of his mouth. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to gather your things and come with me. We can sort this out in the gate area." "No." The word emerges from Amara with the density of collapsed stars. "We'll sort this out right here, right now, while everyone's watching." Behind her phone screen, Madison's eyes widen. "Oh shit, y'all. She's not backing down. This is about to get real." 3,000 viewers and climbing. Someone in the comments recognizes the cabin configuration. "That's Skylink. I fly them all the time." The moment stretches like taffy, sticky and tense. Somewhere in the executive offices of Skylink Airways, Amara's message has just appeared on a screen that will soon command the attention of 12 board members, 1 CEO, and an entire legal department. But here, in the pressurized bubble of Flight 847's first-class cabin, that future remains invisible, unknown, unimagined by everyone except the woman sitting calmly in seat 1A. What happens next will depend on choices made in the next 90 seconds. Choices about who deserves dignity, who holds power, and what happens when those assumptions meet reality in the form of a black woman who refuses to move, refuses to comply, refuses to be anything less than exactly who she is. The clock is ticking. The cameras are rolling. And Amara Johnson's thumb hovers over the call button that will change everything. The morning of this flight began 12 hours earlier in a different kind of first-class environment, the boardroom of Skylink Airways headquarters. Amara sat across from the chief operating officer, her fingers tracing the edge of the obsidian card that would soon become the center of a storm. "Mrs. Johnson, your husband wanted to keep the First Family program confidential," the COO explained, his voice carrying the careful modulation of someone delivering delicate information. "Only 12 cards exist. Board members and immediate family. Most of our employees won't recognize it because, frankly, people who carry these cards don't usually—" He paused, searching for diplomatic words. "Don't usually look like me." Amara's voice held no accusation, just acknowledgement of a truth both understood. "That's not what It's exactly what you meant, and it's precisely why I'm taking this flight." She stood, adjusting her simple clothes with deliberate purpose. "No special treatment, no announcements. I want to see how your airline treats people who look like me when they don't know who I am." Now, 12 hours later, that experiment reaches its crescendo. Amara's thumb presses the FaceTime icon with the certainty of someone detonating a controlled explosion. The screen illuminates, pixels arranging themselves into a face that will soon rewrite everyone's understanding of power dynamics at 30,000 feet, though they haven't left the ground yet. Madison's camera catches the moment the call connects. "Oh my God, she's FaceTiming someone! Guys, this is insane!" Her viewer count surges past 5,000 as the TikTok algorithm recognizes drama in real time and begins its viral multiplication. The face that appears on Amara's screen carries the kind of bone structure that suggests boardrooms and billion-dollar decisions. Marcus Johnson's eyes, even through the digital interface, hold the particular intensity of someone accustomed to reshaping reality with words. Behind him, the unmistakable skyline of downtown's financial district frames his presence like a throne. "Baby, are you okay? I saw the notification." His voice cuts through the cabin noise with surgical precision, each word carrying weight that the phone's recording don't yet understand. Kesha's hand, still raised to summon security, freezes mid-gesture. The blood drains from her face with the kind of totality usually reserved for medical emergencies. Her mouth opens, closes, opens again. A fish drowning in air that suddenly feels too thin, Captain Hayes steps forward, his authority suddenly feeling less certain. "Ma'am, you need to end that call. We have procedures. Richard Hayes." The voice from the phone speaks the captain's name like a summons to judgment. "Captain, employee number 44792, 22 years of service, 3 commendations, and apparently 0 ability to recognize when one of your flight attendants is assaulting my wife." The words "my wife" detonate through the cabin like shaped charges. Madison's phone nearly slips from suddenly nerveless fingers. "No fucking way!" Her stream floods with comments moving too fast to read. The viewer count hits 15,000 and keeps climbing. In the galley, Brad Williams's coffee cup shatters against the floor, brown liquid spreading like the implications of what he's witnessing. His eyes find Keisha with a mixture of horror and something else. Perhaps relief that finally, there will be consequences. "Mr. Johnson, sir, there's been a misunderstanding." Hayes's voice cracks like a teenager's, 4 stripes suddenly feeling like costume jewelry. "A misunderstanding?" Marcus's voice drops to a temperature that makes the recycled cabin air feel tropical by comparison. "My wife is bleeding. My daughter is crying. And you call that a misunderstanding?" The parallel scenes play out with cinematic precision. In the Skylink headquarters, 12 executives scramble into an emergency session, laptops opening to display Madison's live stream on the conference room's wall-sized screen. The chief legal officer's face drains of color as she watches the viewer count pass 30,000. "We're trending," someone whispers. "Number 3 worldwide and climbing." Back in the aircraft, Keisha's world collapses in real time. Her hands shake, with the particular tremor of someone watching their entire life restructure itself. 15 years of careful climbing, of enforcing unwritten rules, of being the guardian at the gate, all of it crumbling like sand castles before a tsunami. "Check the cabin cameras," Marcus commands. "Section 1A, last 20 minutes. Do it now." Hayes fumbles for his tablet, fingers suddenly clumsy on the interface he's used thousands of times. The footage loads with digital inevitability. There's Amara, simply standing to comfort her child. There's Keisha's hand, rising and falling with violence so casual it speaks of practice. There's the blood, the baby's cries, the smoking gun of accountability caught in high definition. "I want their names," Marcus continues, his voice now addressing not just the captain, but everyone within range of Amara's phone. "Every single person who stood by and watched my wife get assaulted. Every employee who chose compliance over conscience." Patricia Williams in seat 1B finds her voice. "I tried to speak up. She didn't do anything wrong. The flight attendant just—" But Keisha turns on her with the desperation of the drowning. "Shut up! You don't know what you saw!" "We all know what we saw," Madison interjects, her generation's refusal to be silenced evident in every syllable. "And now 80,000 other people know too. Smile, you're viral." The number is actually closer to 90,000 now. the stream spreading across platforms like wildfire in digital drought. Somewhere, a CNN producer is already drafting the chyron. Breaking: Airline CEO's wife assaulted by flight attendant. Live streamed. Marcus's voice cuts through the chaos with final, terrible clarity. Captain Hayes, you have exactly 30 seconds to explain why my wife is bleeding. Starting now. The countdown begins. Not just 30 seconds, but the final moments of careers, of assumptions, of a system that operated on the belief that power always wears a uniform, and authority always has the last word. In seat 1A, Amara Johnson sits perfectly still, a master chess player who has just revealed that what looked like a simple pawn was actually a queen all along. Her silence speaks louder than sirens. Her stillness moves mountains. 28 seconds. 27. The cabin holds its breath, waiting for an explanation that cannot possibly suffice. 25 seconds. 24. And somewhere in the distance, the faint sound of justice approaching at the speed of fiber optic cables and viral mathematics. 10 seconds, Captain Hayes. Marcus Johnson's voice carries the weight of empires falling. 9. 8. The countdown echoes through the cabin like a funeral bell. Hayes's mouth opens and closes, but no words emerge that could possibly bridge the chasm between what he assumed and what is real. His tablet trembles in hands that have guided aircraft through storms, but cannot navigate this moment of terrestrial reckoning. 7, 6. Mr. Johnson, sir, I was misinformed. The captain's voice cracks like ice under pressure. 5, 4. Stop counting! Keisha's composure shatters completely, her voice rising to a pitch that makes nearby passengers flinch. This is insane. She can't be. She doesn't look like. Like what? Amara speaks for the first time since the violence, her voice carrying the kind of calm that precedes earthquakes. Like someone who matters? Like someone with power? Like someone who could buy this entire airline with one phone call? She adjusts Zara against her chest, the movement deliberate, measured. That's exactly what you counted on, isn't it? The head of human resources materializes on Marcus's screen in split view, her face the particular shade of pale reserved for career-ending moments. Mr. Johnson, I've pulled Keisha Miller's file. 17 complaints in 5 years, all from passengers of color. 3 documented cases of physical altercations she initiated. The revelation ripples through the cabin like a stone dropped in still water. Madison's camera swings between faces. Keisha's draining of all color, Hayes's crumbling authority, the other passengers' dawning recognition of complicity. 3 physical assaults? Marcus's voice could freeze hell. And she's still employed? Each incident was signed off as passenger-initiated or unfounded by... The HR director pauses, her eyes flicking to something off-screen. By me. Captain Hayes's admission emerges like pulled teeth. I signed off on all of them. The silence that follows carries the weight of 17 voices that were dismissed, 17 people who were told their experiences didn't matter, 17 moments when the system chose comfort over justice. In the digital sphere, Madison's viewer count explodes past 100,000. The comments scroll too fast to read, but certain phrases appear again and again. Justice, finally! Sue them into bankruptcy! This is why we record everything! 3 passengers rise from their seats simultaneously, as if choreographed by shared trauma. An elderly black woman in 2C speaks first, her voice steady despite the tears tracking down her cheeks. She accused me of stealing my own iPad last year. When I showed my receipt, she said it was probably fake. A young Latino man in 4A adds his voice. She told me I was in the wrong seat 3 months ago. Made me show my boarding pass 4 times. Said people like me always try to sneak upgrades. A Middle Eastern woman in 3D doesn't speak, just holds up her phone showing a video. Kesha pushing her elderly mother out of the boarding line 6 months prior, claiming she looked suspicious. Brad Williams finally finds his courage, stepping forward from the galley. I have recordings, audio files. Every time I tried to report her behavior, I was told to mind my own business. They're all on my personal phone. Time-stamped. Verified. The cabin becomes a confession booth, a reckoning delayed too long. Each testimony adds another crack to the foundation of Kesha's world, to Hayes' authority, to the airline's carefully maintained facade of equality. Let me make something crystal clear to everyone on this plane. Marcus's voice cuts through the testimonies with surgical precision. Amara Johnson is not just my wife. She's the co-founder of the Johnson Foundation for Racial Justice, the same foundation that pushed through the Airline Passenger Rights Act of 2019. The woman you assaulted has spent the last decade fighting for people like the ones you've been terrorizing. Madison drops her phone. It clatters against the armrest, but her live stream continues from its awkward angle, catching the ceiling and the edges of shocked faces. The Amara Johnson? The one who sued Delta? The one who got those TSA agents fired for profiling? That Amara Johnson? The comments section erupts into digital chaos. Screenshots of Amara's Wikipedia page flood the feed. Links to her landmark cases spread like wildfire. The narrative reshapes itself in real time. This isn't just about one incident anymore. This is about patterns and power, about systems and accountability, about what happens when someone who fights monsters discovers the monster has been serving her drinks. Kesha's legs give out. She collapses into an empty seat, her uniform, once a symbol of authority, now looking like a costume she's no longer authorized to wear. Her hands shake as the full weight of her actions, past and present, settles on her shoulders like a mountain of consequence. I want every one of her previous victims contacted, Marcus continues, now addressing someone off-screen. Full compensation, public apologies, and I want it done today. Sir, the legal ramifications, another voice from his end starts. I don't care about ramifications. I care about justice. My wife is bleeding. My daughter is traumatized. And we just discovered we've been employing a serial assailant for 5 years. The ramifications have already happened. Now we're dealing with consequences. Stock prices flash on a screen behind Marcus. Skylink Airways dropping 8% in 12 minutes. The number seems abstract until you realize it represents nearly $1 billion in value evaporating into the digital ether. But in Seat 1A, Amara Johnson doesn't look at stock prices. She looks at the faces around her, some ashamed, some angry, some finally feeling seen. Now, she says, her voice carrying the quiet authority of someone who has waited for this moment with the patience of geological time. Let's talk about what happens next. Captain Hayes. Marcus Johnson's voice cuts through the cabin like a scalpel through diseased tissue. You're relieved of duty. Immediately. Security will escort you off this aircraft. The words fall with the finality of a judge's gavel. Hayes' hand moves unconsciously to the 4 stripes on his shoulder, touching them like a man saying goodbye to a dying friend. 22 years of climbing through ranks, of perfect safety records, of company Christmas parties and retirement planning, all of it evaporating in the space between heartbeats. Kesha Miller. Marcus continues, each syllable a nail in a professional coffin. You're terminated. Effective this second. And that's just the beginning. You can't do this, Keisha's voice cracks like a whip made of desperation. "I have rights. I have a union. You have 17 complaints and 3 documented assaults." Amara's voice cuts through Keisha's protests with surgical precision. "You have a pattern of behavior that my foundation has been tracking for 2 years. Did you really think we hadn't noticed?" The revelation lands like a second blow. This wasn't random. This wasn't chance. Amara Johnson had walked onto this flight knowing exactly who Keisha Miller was, what she'd done, who she'd hurt. The hunter had become the hunted without ever knowing the game had changed. Federal Air Marshal Thompson emerges from his seat in row 7, badge gleaming with an authority that suddenly seems more certain than anything else in the cabin. His hand rests on his service weapon, not threatening, just present, a reminder that some forms of justice wear badges and carry handcuffs. "Ms. Miller, Captain Hayes, I need you both to come with me." His voice carries the professional detachment of someone who has seen authority crumble before. "You're both under arrest for assault, violation of federal aviation regulations, and conspiracy to violate civil rights. You have the right to remain silent." The Miranda warning continues, but Keisha isn't listening. Her world has narrowed to the sensation of metal closing around her wrists, the click of handcuffs sounding like the period at the end of a life sentence. Beside her, Hayes stands frozen, his captain's uniform now looking like a costume from a play that's just closed. "My kids," Keisha whispers, the fight draining from her voice like air from a punctured balloon. "I have kids, a mortgage. I can't. So did every person you humiliated?" Amara's response carries no mercy, only truth. "Every mother you accused of theft, every father you made feel less than human. They all had bills to pay, children to feed, dignity you stole. Where was your concern for them?" The cabin watches in silence as security boards the aircraft. These aren't mall cops or airline contractors. These are federal agents, summoned by powers that move faster than commercial aviation. They move with the efficiency of people who have done this before, will do it again, are doing it right now because justice sometimes wears a badge and always keeps receipts. Madison's camera captures every moment. Her viewer count has stabilized at 120,000, the comments section a waterfall of vindication and viral justice. "This is insane! They're actually arresting them! On the plane! Guys, are you seeing this?" "Please," Hayes tries one last time, his voice breaking like waves against cliffs. "My pension. 22 years. My wife doesn't work. We have medical bills. You should have thought of that before you signed off on 17 complaints." Marcus's voice carries the particular coldness of someone who has run out of sympathy. "Before you enabled a racist to terrorize passengers for 5 years. Before you chose your comfort over their humanity." The procession moves through the first-class cabin like a funeral march. Other passengers film with the hunger of people witnessing history, their phones becoming witnesses to what happens when accountability arrives without warning. Some faces show satisfaction. Others, particularly those who remained silent during the initial assault, wear the particular expression of people recognizing their own complicity. "Ladies and gentlemen," a new voice emerges from the cockpit. Captain Sarah Williams, hastily summoned from the ready reserve, speaks with the calm professionalism of someone stepping into chaos and choosing order. "This is your new captain. On behalf of Skylink Airways, I want to personally apologize for what you've witnessed. We're implementing immediate changes to ensure this never happens again." "Empty words." Amara's voice cuts through the apology. "I don't want apologies. I want change. Real, systemic, measurable change." She stands, finally, still holding Zara, who has quieted to small hiccups against her mother's chest. Blood has dried on her lip, a rusty reminder of violence in a space that pretends to civilization. When she speaks again, her words carry the weight of every courtroom she's ever entered, every case she's ever won, every person she's ever fought for. Every passenger who was ever mistreated by these two will be contacted, compensated, given the apology they should have received years ago. Every complaint that was dismissed will be investigated. Every employee who looked the other way will be retrained or replaced. And this, she gestures to the blood on her shirt, the phones still recording, the empty seats where authority used to sit. This is just the beginning. The cabin erupts in spontaneous applause. Not the polite golf clap of first-class approval, but something rawer, more real. Patricia Williams wipes tears from her eyes. The elderly woman who spoke up about her iPad clutches her chest like she's watching a prayer be answered. Even Brad Williams, finally freed from the weight of witnessed wrongs, claps until his palms sting. "Ma'am," Madison approaches with the reverence of someone meeting a hero. "Would you like to say anything to the viewers? To everyone watching?" Amara looks directly into the camera, into the eyes of 120,000 witnesses spread across the globe. Her words, when they come, carry the weight of history being written in real time. Justice delayed is justice denied. Today, justice caught up. 24 hours later, the world watches as justice moves with the speed of viral mathematics. The Skylink Airways headquarters in downtown Atlanta resembles a fortress under siege, not from protesters, but from news vans forming a metallic moat around the building. CNN, Fox, MSNBC, BBC, every major outlet has deployed their top correspondents to cover what social media has already christened Skylink Scandal. Inside the emergency boardroom, 12 executives sit around a mahogany table that cost more than most people's annual salaries, watching their company's reputation dissolve in real time on a wall of screens. The Department of Transportation's announcement plays on loop. Effective immediately, we are launching a comprehensive investigation into discriminatory practices at Skylink Airways and throughout the commercial aviation industry. The chief legal officer's hands shake as she reads from her tablet. 147 additional complaints have been filed in the last 24 hours, all documenting similar experiences with Miller and Hayes, some going back a decade. She pauses, swallowing hard. 3 class action lawsuits were filed this morning. The preliminary damages estimate is... The number she whispers makes several board members visibly flinch. Meanwhile, in a federal detention center, Keisha Miller sits in a holding cell that smells of industrial disinfectant and broken dreams. The charges have multiplied like cancer cells: assault, battery, civil rights violations, conspiracy, falsifying reports. Her court-appointed attorney, young and overwhelmed, has already suggested she consider a plea deal. With the video evidence and your history, trial would be... He doesn't finish. He doesn't need to. Captain Richard Hayes occupies a similar cell 3 blocks away. His pilot's license, the document he'd spent half his life earning, has been emergency suspended. The Federal Aviation Administration's statement was unequivocal. Captain Hayes demonstrated gross negligence in his supervisory duties and actively enabled discriminatory behavior that endangered passenger safety. 22 years of perfect landings couldn't cushion this crash, but the real earthquake comes from within Skylink itself. Marcus Johnson, recused from direct action due to conflict of interest, watches as the board implements what they're calling Operation Clean Slate. It begins with an email sent to all 47,000 employees worldwide. Effective immediately. Every discrimination complaint filed in the past 10 years will be reviewed by an independent committee. Every employee with multiple complaints will be investigated. Every incident that was dismissed without proper investigation will be reopened. This is not a witch hunt. This is accountability arriving at 30,000 feet. 43 employees are terminated within the first week. Not just flight attendants and pilots, but ground crew, gate agents, customer service representatives. A whole ecosystem of bias revealed by the harsh light of scrutiny. Each termination comes with a public acknowledgement of failure, a personal apology to victims, and compensation that makes corporate accountants weep into their spreadsheets. The media explosion continues its mushroom cloud expansion. Madison Taylor, the journalism student whose TikTok livestream has now reached 25 million total views across all platforms, finds herself at the center of a bidding war between news outlets wanting exclusive interviews. She chooses Oprah, sitting across from the media mogul in a studio that feels like a temple to truth-telling. "I just held up my phone," Madison says, her generation's matter-of-fact relationship with technology evident in every word. "That's what we do. We document. Because we know that without proof, without witnesses, people like Keisha Miller get to keep hurting people. The camera doesn't lie." Oprah nods, then turns to her other guest. Amara Johnson sits with the same calm she displayed in seat 1A, though the split lip has healed, and Zara plays quietly with a toy in her lap. "You knew who Keisha Miller was before you boarded that plane?" "I did." Amara's admission carries no shame, only strategy. "My foundation has been tracking discriminatory incidents in aviation for 5 years. Keisha Miller's name appeared 17 times. Captain Hayes' signature appeared on every dismissal. I knew that traditional channels had failed. Sometimes, to catch a predator, you have to become prey." The interview's impact is seismic. Amara's law trends worldwide as congressional representatives rush to attach their names to newly proposed legislation. The Airline Passenger Protection Act of 2025 promises mandatory body cameras for all customer-facing airline employees, independent review boards for all discrimination complaints, and minimum fines of $10,000 per incident. United, Delta, and American Airlines announce their own internal reviews before the government can force them. Flight attendant unions issue carefully worded statements trying to balance support for their members with acknowledgement of systemic failures. The International Air Transport Association calls an emergency meeting to discuss industry-wide reforms. At Columbia University, Madison Taylor finds herself transformed from student to symbol. Her journalism professors use her live stream as a case study in citizen journalism. Her followers have grown from a few hundred to 2 million. She launches Fly While Brown, a platform for documenting discrimination in travel. The Johnson Foundation provides seed funding. Within a month, the app has 100,000 downloads and has documented 500 incidents across 50 airlines. Brad Williams, the flight attendant who finally found his courage, becomes a key witness in the federal investigation. His recorded evidence, years of audio files documenting Keisha's behavior and management's dismissals, provides the smoking gun prosecutors need. He testifies before Congress, his voice steady, as he explains the culture of silence that allowed discrimination to flourish at altitude. "We were told to look the other way, that customer complaints were just people trying to get free flights, that supporting a colleague was more important than supporting what was right." He pauses, looking directly at the senators. "I was a coward, but I kept records because I knew someday someone would care enough to listen." The ripple effects spread beyond aviation. Restaurant chains, hotels, retail stores, all begin examining their own complaint procedures, their own histories of dismissed concerns. The phrase, "Is this your Skylink moment?" enters corporate lexicon as shorthand for institutional reckoning delayed too long. And in the eye of this hurricane, Amara Johnson continues her work. Not from cockpits or courtrooms now, but from conference rooms and congressional hearings, building the architecture of change one policy at a time. Her split lip healed, but the scar tissue of systemic reform remains tender, necessary, permanent. Justice, it seems, has wings. And sometimes it arrives not at the speed of sound, but at the speed of shares, likes, and collective outrage finally given form. 1 year later, morning light through familiar windows finds Amara Johnson at Gate B7 once more. The same gate, the same flight, but a transformed world. The Airline Passenger Protection Act passed 8 months after that morning. Not 6 months as initially hoped, but democracy moves at its own pace, and lasting change takes time. She boards Flight 847 with Zara, now 18 months old, and walking with the determined wobble of toddlers everywhere. The Skylink Airways that greets them bears the scars of transformation. Body cameras on every uniform, passenger rights prominently displayed, and a crew trained not just in service, but in equity. "Good morning. Welcome aboard." Thomas Martinez, the flight attendant, greets each passenger with practiced warmth that feels genuine because it is. He doesn't know Amara is the catalyst who changed his industry. Privacy protocols ensure anonymity for all passengers, a small victory in a larger war. In 1A, Amara settles Zara with practiced ease. The child who witnessed violence here now points at clouds through the window, babbling observations in the universal language of wonder. No trauma shadows her features. Children heal in ways adults cannot. Madison Taylor's "Fly While Brown" has evolved into a movement. 2 million users document their travel experiences, creating an accountability network that spans continents. She graduated summa cum laude, her thesis on citizen journalism and social justice already being adapted into a documentary. When she speaks at conferences, she starts the same way. "I almost stayed silent. Thank God I didn't." Keisha Miller serves her time in federal prison, 18 months for assault and civil rights violations. The other charges were dropped in a plea deal that required her to allocate, to name names, to pull back the curtain on systemic discrimination. Her testimony helps convict 6 other employees across 3 airlines. Her children visit monthly, learning hard lessons about choices and consequences. Richard Hayes lost everything he thought mattered: his license, his pension, his identity as captain. But in the ruins, he found something else. He teaches now, not flying, but ethics, traveling to airlines worldwide to share his story of complicity and redemption. "I had power," he tells rooms full of aviation professionals, "and I used it to protect the wrong people." Brad Williams leads Skylink's diversity training program, his courage finally matching his conscience. He keeps the old recordings on his phone, not as evidence anymore, but as reminder of the cost of silence. The industry transformed through pain into something approaching justice. Complaints dropped 70% in the first year, not because people stopped reporting, but because discrimination became too expensive, too visible, too costly to maintain. The phrase, "Is this your Skylink moment?" evolved from warning to prevention. As Flight 847 rises into morning sky, Amara opens her laptop to review the Johnson Foundation's latest initiative, expanding protection to hotel workers, restaurant staff, retail employees. The work never ends. It only changes form. "Can I bring you anything?" Thomas asks, professional and kind. "Just water, please." He serves her with the same attention he gives everyone. The wealthy businessman in 2A, the young mother in 3C, the elderly couple across the aisle. No special treatment, no discrimination, just service as it should be. It's a small moment in the grand scheme. A black woman receiving equal treatment on an airplane. But revolutions are built from small moments, accumulated like interest, compounding into change. Through the window, clouds part to reveal the earth below, vast and varied and beautiful. Somewhere down there, someone boards a plane with phone ready, prepared to document whatever comes. The watchers watch. The system finally works. Justice found its wings. And Amara Johnson smiles, knowing that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to be silent when silence is expected. The plane climbs toward cruising altitude, carrying its passengers toward their destinations, each journey a small victory in a larger struggle that continues, always continues, but now with better odds.